Hi guys, I'm back. I have another video for you. Cool thing about this video, I'm in a chair. If you haven't noticed, my other videos I was spread out on the ground. I have a new computer and desk, so I figured I'd try it out. I like it so far. Before I only had a laptop, so I'd spread out on my coffee table, but this is kind of nice. If you have not watched any of my previous videos, hi, I'm Danielle. And if you haven't noticed from the title of the channel, 100 Ghost Stories, this is a paranormal channel. Or I guess a channel just where I mostly talk about the paranormal, talk about spooky stuff that I like. And I am trying to get to 100 ghost stories. So I want to gather ghost stories from myself, from other sources, from family and friends. So far, we haven't had anybody else on the channel, but I do plan on bringing other people on. You're probably wondering what we are doing today. So like I have mentioned before, I get a little loose as to what I count as a ghost story. And this is going to be one of those videos. I'm going to count it as one single ghost story. And I'm going to be talking about the Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen movie, Double Double, Toil, and Trouble. And I'm really excited about this because this used to be one of my favorite movies when I was a kid, and I haven't watched it in so long. I watched it kind of in the background while I was doing a bunch of stuff and getting stuff done, just to kind of get an overview. Is this really what I thought it was? Is it as wild as I thought? And it sure is. And right now I'm gonna go ahead and watch it while paying attention, tell you about it, and tell you what I think. So I hope you like this. I know it's a little different, but I'm excited to do it. I think we're gonna have fun. So the beginning starts off strong right off the bat. It starts with the introduction. The following is based off of a true story. Maybe.
The following is based on a true story. Maybe.
So it's probably true. Okay, so Daryl, get out of here. Sorry about him. The movie opens up with the twins at a Halloween party. I'm assuming it's at their school. I don't know if it's a birthday party or what, but they're at a Halloween party. They're doing party stuff, playing pin the tail on the donkey. They're bobbing for apples, which is really anxiety inducing. After a year of quarantine, I wonder when we'll start bobbing for apples again. And they are carving pumpkins. Everything seems pretty typical so far. After all the kids are done playing their games, they are invited to watch this magic show hosted by Oscar the Clown. And then he goes on to judge the pumpkin carving contest. So the pumpkin carving contest makes me a little uncomfortable because I feel like they're ragging on some of these kids' looks. The kid with glasses makes a pumpkin with glasses. The Asian girl makes an Asian pumpkin, which I feel like it's poor taste. And then there's that like droopy kid, and he has like a droopy-eyed pumpkin. And then the twins have this like cute, just very typical pumpkin. I don't like the pumpkin carving contest. It just seems like they're making fun of these kids' looks and specifically the one girl's ethnicity. So let's just move on from there. The twins win the pumpkin carving contest. It's apparently a tie because they carved exactly the same pumpkin, and their prize is a magic wand. So we'll see this theme throughout the movie where the twins don't like to be referred to as the twins.
They're so cute. Must be murder trying to tell them apart.
They want to be individuals. They don't like to be lumped together. However, they have exactly the same personality, and they even carve the exact same pumpkin. Because the parents are having some money troubles, they go to the mother's Aunt Agatha's house to ask for money. But they ask the twins to stay in the car because she doesn't like children.
Well, she doesn't like children.
She doesn't like children?
She doesn't like anybody.
Ashley's playing with the wand, and she says abracadabra, and it flies out the car window. So her, Mary-Kate, and their dog go out to look for the wand, And that's when they stumble upon the gravedigger, and the gravedigger is out of his mind. He's paranoid, he's jumpy, he is delusional. Probably somebody two little kids shouldn't be talking to alone. The gravedigger is immediately afraid when the twins stumble upon him because he thinks they're in two places at the same time.
But you were over there?
No, that was me.
Ah! You're in two places at the same time!
We're twins, silly.
Oh! 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 Twins! Oh, twins.
When I was just remembering this movie before I rewatched this, I just assumed there was a cemetery next to Aunt Agatha's house, but apparently she is the gravedigger's employer. And he says,
I'm a grave digger. That's why I'm digging a grave.
For who?
I'm doing it for very little money. For her.
This part is just so dark. It implies that these children's great aunt murders people to the point where it's so frequent that she has employed a gravedigger. I love the acting in this scene because it reminds me of every single skit I ever did in high school.
This guy needs to get out more.
These kids should be scared because right when he tells his story, he immediately runs behind a tree and peeks between the cracks to get started.
Halloween. All Hallows Eve.
He just explains to them that Halloween is scary because that is the night that the dead raise from their graves, and it also is the night that witches gather. And he explains to the twins that Agatha is a bad witch, and she will probably be at their local witches gathering. We learn that 200 years ago, a witch lived in Aunt Agatha's home, and she was burnt at the stake, but not before she hid her magic moonstone. He tells the origin story of Aunt Agatha and her sister Sophia and how they go searching for the moonstone together. Agatha and Sophia want to find this moonstone so they can make a wish that they were not twins anymore.
I win. Now let's go look for the magic moonstone. Let's look everywhere. And if we find it, we'll make a wish. Yes, we'll make a wish that we're not twins anymore. That we're completely different. Splendid.
So this is kind of lining up with Mary-Kate and Ashley's story. By the way, I'm just going to keep calling them Mary-Kate and Ashley because that's a lot easier for me. So Agatha and Sophia search for the moonstone. The thing is, Agatha finds the moonstone but does not tell Sophia, and she keeps it for herself.
Did you find it? Did you find the moonstone? No, I didn't find it.
Okay, so the gravedigger elaborates and explains that Agatha used the moonstone to mess with her sister throughout the years, to the point where it escalated to where she locked Sophia in a mirror. And the spell can only be broken on Halloween night, I believe at midnight, if you have the correct incantation.
What's an incantation? It's a magic words like abracadabra and Gazorn-Platz.
But then an owl spooks him and he runs off.
I shouldn't even be speaking of such things. The shadow world's all around us.
The gravedigger does say one thing here. He explains that he lives where the sun always shines. And you need to remember that because we will see him later.
I live where the sun always shines and it never gets dark. Smart, huh? Goodbye.
Meanwhile, the twins' parents speak to Aunt Agatha. One thing that's weird about this character is she's like really immature. She's like mean, but kind of the way a 10-year-old bully is mean.
There's someone at the door, madam.
while the parents talk to Aunt Agatha, she does something kind of weird. She like gets the fire going and then like hikes up her skirt and warms her butt. Let me know in the comments if you think she's doing something else, but I don't think this is a thing. I don't know what this is. I don't know if it was improvised by this actress. I don't know if this was a deliberate direction, but it's very odd. The talk with Aunt Agatha goes poorly. Right when she finds out that they're asking for a loan, she loses her mind. She kicks them out, but then she hears that her cat is in distress. And Norman the dog has chased the cat up the tree, and she finds the twins trying to get their dog to leave the cat alone. The thing is, twins are Agatha's trigger, so she loses her mind and chases them out.
Twins. You never said you had twins.
When did you ever give us the chance?
Get off my street right now! Don't you yell at my daughter!
Shut up now and take that motherless brush of yours with you. I'm warning you.
We then get to meet Aunt Sophia, who is trapped in the mirror, and we learn that if she's trapped in the mirror for 7 years, she is trapped there for good, and Agatha's plan is to bury the mirror in that grave that the grave digger was digging. So she'll be trapped in the mirror for life and essentially buried alive.
I'm going to drip bat's blood and sealing wax on this mirror and bury it.
We then briefly meet this homeless man who tries to wash the twins' dad's windshield in exchange for money. But unfortunately, the dad did not have cash on him, at least that's what he said, so the twins give him pineapple lollipops. And we will see this man later.
What's this?
It's pineapple.
What am I going to do with pineapple? I hate pineapple.
The first half hour of this movie, I've just realized, is a bunch of foreshadowing. And we get even more foreshadowing right here, where the twins' mother is talking about how generous Aunt Sophia is and how her favorite cookies are cinnamon. So that's another thing you will need to remember. It will come up later.
And these cookies are her recipe. Cinnamon, her favorite.
Okay, so there is something wrong with this family. She goes on to say that Aunt Sophia met a nice man and they must have ran away together. And one of the twins is like,
But didn't she call you or write you letters?
she's like, no.
No, that was the strange part. No one ever heard from her or saw her again.
And I would be here thinking, like, did this man murder her? Did anybody try to call her? Like, what happened to her? Clearly something went wrong. It's not every day that somebody just gets a boyfriend, runs away, and never talks to anybody again. So this guy from the bank, I believe he's a realtor for the bank, he shows up to check at the house because apparently this family's home is going into foreclosure, they say the following Monday. So must be going into foreclosure within the next couple of days. The twins didn't know that, so he kind of spills the beans. And then he makes a joke about them being twins, which is the last straw, and the dad kicks him out.
Aren't you too cute? Hey, too cute. I think I'm seeing double. That's it. Out. Hey.
After talking to their parents, they get the idea that if Aunt Sophia was around, they will be able to ask her for the money and save their home. So they hatch a plan to go to the witches' gathering and steal Agatha's moonstone so they can break the curse and get Sophia out of the mirror. Okay, this part makes me sad. They feel like this is up to them to save their home. For some reason, they feel like they can't tell their parents because they won't believe them. And then they go to their dog and they're like,
If we disappear like Aunt Sophia, I'll sure miss Norman. Norman, we're going on a scary and dangerous mission tomorrow. But if we don't come back, you make sure to take care of Mom and Dad.
it's like so sad. So it is now the following day, Halloween. And while their parents are making out, they slip away and corner two other kids. I just want to talk about their costumes real quick because this is definitely appropriating somebody. I don't really know exactly who. One is like vaguely Latin American, while the other is like vaguely Middle Eastern or Muslim. I don't know what they're supposed to be. So when they corner these two other kids, they say that they will give them all their candy if they switch costumes with them and pretend to be them while they're trick-or-treating with their parents, if that makes sense. So they just want these kids to put on their costumes, switch places with them so they can slip away and get to the witch's gathering.
Sorry, this is a limited time offer. Take it or leave it. Let's do it. Do it. We'll take it.
While the twins are walking aimlessly by themselves trying to find this witch's gathering, they throw a rock up in the air and end up hitting a person who turns out, coincidentally, to... I keep breathing in dust. I swear I cleaned my apartment. I don't know what that is. Okay, so who coincidentally turns out to be the homeless man that tried to watch their windshield earlier. So they start talking to him, and these two are like pretty disrespectful to him. They make like a lot of jokes about him being homeless and like kind of troll him about it, which they're about to be homeless on Monday apparently, so maybe they should lay off.
If you had a door, we would have knocked first. If you're homeless, there's a new place downtown that can help you. I saw it on the news.
But anyways, they start talking to him and they let it slip that they are looking for the moonstone, and they tell him it is very expensive, and he sees this as an opportunity to get rich because his plan is to follow them, find the moonstone, steal it, and keep it for himself.
What is a moonstone?
It's this gem that she has.
Jim? Is it valuable?
Oh, yes. 200 years old.
Interesting. And you're going to get this gem by yourselves?
Sure.
We learned that this man's name is Mr. Ed, so that's what I will continue to call him. And the twins explained to him that they are looking for their aunt at a witch's gathering, and that's where they can find their aunt and the moonstone. But they have no clue where this gathering is. So they go to Mr. Ed's psychic friend to see if they can get some insight. Mr. Ed seems to know that the psychic is fake, but he says that a lot of, he calls them loonies, go to her. So he's hoping she might know where the witch's gathering is. He doesn't actually think she is psychic, but she has her crystal ball and she pretends like she is getting a vision. But the twins wave their magic wand and it shows exactly where the witch's gathering is on the crystal ball. So now they know their location and they are on their way.
I recognize that joint. The gathering must be down in the old abandoned warehouse district.
Halloween?
Hey, that's pretty good, Lulu. No, this time I thought you were just a fake.
Now that they know where to find the witch's gathering, they walk outside of the psychic's business and they see a pumpkin truck. And for some reason, Mr. Ed thinks this will take them to the witch's gathering. So they sneak onto the back of the pumpkin truck and they wait. While they're chilling in the pumpkin truck, the twins continue to rag on Mr. Ed for being homeless, even though they're about to be homeless themselves.
Of course, if there were any justice, I would have a limo and a chauffeur.
And a bill you couldn't pay.
Yes, ladies, money is the key, and I want lots and lots of it.
Have you ever tried working for it?
Hey.
They sing a song to pass the time.
I know a song that gets on everybody's nerves. Everybody's nerves. Everybody's nerves.
Mr. Ed does fall asleep, and when he awakens, he realizes that they are not going the right way. So they gracefully get off the truck and head in the correct direction. Mr. Ed and the twins end up getting lost in the woods. So these two twins and this man they met under the bridge are wandering around. So it's not the best case scenario for these young ladies.
We're in big trouble.
And that's when they find a little house. The twins just walk into this house because they said they saw a light on, and that meant somebody must be home. So they go ahead and just walk in, and then they come across a person. He just comes walking in carrying balloons, just like inflated balloons, which means he probably inflated them that day because those, what do they last, like 12 hours? But they realize that he is the clown from the birthday party that gave them the wand for winning the pumpkin carving contest. They give him the lowdown on what's going on, how they're traveling with Mr. Ed to get to the witches' gathering so they can save their Aunt Sophia and ultimately save their home. I feel like this could be a turning point where this man says like, hey, should we call your parents? Do you know this man? Oh, you met him under a bridge? Yeah, maybe we should call your parents. Maybe the police are looking for you. I don't want to get caught up in this. But that's not what he does. After Oscar shares his insecurities with the twins about how small he is, they relate and say, we're not so big either. They say they would never make fun of him, and they win him over, so he decides to help them in their mission. And this is when we find out that Aunt Agatha is onto them because she is able to use her moonstone magic to spy on the twins through a mirror. They all pile into his clown car to go to the witches' gathering. And I feel like this is right when this is officially a crime. Once he loads the twins onto a vehicle and drives to another location. A crime may have been committed already, but I feel like at this point, this is definitely a crime. Meanwhile, Agatha gets all pumped for the witches' gathering. She gets glammed up. She covers her hair in mascara. She puts on her best outfit. She is good to go. It should be a good night for her. While everyone is heading to the witches' gathering, Ashley and Mary-Kate's parents just now realize that they are trick-or-treating with the wrong children. And everyone's like a little chill about it. Like the other kids' parents are like,
You know what? I'll bet this is just a little Halloween trick. I'm sure your twins are safe and sound and they're having a great time with some friends right now.
and the police are like pretty chill about it too. They're like,
They've only been gone for a couple of hours.
and that scene with the police, we find out they are 7. And when 2 7-year-olds are missing, that should be a cause for concern. I feel like the police should be worried about them. And you know, they really should be worried about them. They are traveling with this homeless man that they met under a bridge. He's planning on robbing them. And this single man who works parties as a clown and lives in the middle of the woods, neither of whom felt the need to call their parents, and they're traveling to a witches' gathering. So, I mean, they are in danger. Somebody should do something. But this one police officer overhears, and she's like,
He's right. It's probably all very innocent, but I'm heading back out onto the streets, and I'll make a few inquiries right away.
so I guess at least somebody kind of cares. We finally see the twins disguised for the witches' gathering, and they painted their face like mice. I mean, I feel like it's a weird choice for a witches' gathering, but also for 2 people who really hate looking alike and really hate being twins and hate being lumped together, they sure do dress alike all the time. This is the one point when I genuinely laugh a little bit.
Invitations, please.
This is my covenant.
I do think this part's cute. You know, it all works out though. They wave their wand to compel the man to let them in without an invite, and this party's bumping. has done high school theater has been to a party like that, including myself. I'm definitely getting some flashbacks. So it seems that Aunt Agatha is in charge of this party. She walks in, she takes down her veil or hood or whatever it is, and then she sits on a throne. I'm getting a lot of ideas for my 30th birthday. This doesn't look half bad. Agatha brags about how she trapped her sister in a mirror, and she goes on to tell her coven about the twins' plan to let Sophia out of the mirror. Basically, that's what her speech is, and she wants their help to catch them.
Twins are here among us! I'd like to get my hands on those twins, those little brats!
Mr. Ed and Oscar come up with a plan. So far, watching it, it actually seems like a pretty solid plan. Oscar is a pretty good actor. What he does is he gets on Mr. Ed's shoulders and he pretends to be this powerful being. He uses some of his clown tricks to make the cauldron like spark or bubble or whatever. And it's going well, and he convinces her that he can make her more powerful if she just hands him her moonstone. And that's around the time that Mr. Ed ruins the plan. After Oscar gets the moonstone and he's still playing around, Mr. Ed like peeps out from the cloak and like waves at Agatha. And that's when I'm like starting to think, is something wrong with Mr. Ed? Is he okay? Why did you do that? Did you forget what you were doing? Did you forget that you had to be a little stealthy? They kind of move on from there. And the twins, Mr. Ed and Oscar, get out. They escape, and the coven pursues them.
I hate this!
As the crew is being chased, Mary Kate goes off with Mr. Ed, and Ashley goes off with Oscar. Oh, so fun fact about me is I watched so much Mary Kate and Ashley content as a child that I can tell the Olsen twins apart. Back when parties were allowed prior to COVID, that used to be like one of my favorite party tricks. Just show me any picture of the Olsen twins at any age and I'll tell you which one it is. Now that I'm done bragging, they split up. Mr. Ed and Mary Kate end up getting cornered by Agatha, and I don't know where they are. They're like locked themselves in some building that seems to be abandoned. Mr. Ed decides that he is going to try to bargain with Agatha and get her to pay him money for him to give her the moonstone back. And it doesn't go well. So in anger, she turns him into a crow and he flies away. So now Mary Kate is alone in this abandoned building. Aunt Sophia suddenly shows up and is like,
Lynn and Oscar came to the house and used the moonstone to free me.
but the thing is, like, Mary Kate's not really buying it. And so she comes up with an idea. She tricks her and she gets her to say that her favorite cookies are chocolate chip.
Chocolate chip, my favorite!
But she very well knows that her favorite cookies are cinnamon. Remember when I told you to remember that?
And these cookies are her recipe. Cinnamon, her favorite.
So that's where she catches her. It's Aunt Agatha. It's not Aunt Sophia. This movie is not going to end here. Mary Kate convinces Agatha, who is masquerading as Aunt Sophia, to come up the stairs. So Agatha creeps up the stairs in a very creepy way.
I'm on my way! Here I come!
And Mary Kate wraps her wand around her hands, so she is now trapped.
You're not Aunt Sophia! Her favorite cookies were cinnamon, not chocolate chip!
And then Mary Kate takes off running in the other direction, and that's when this terrifying scene happens. Agatha's butler picks her up and shakes her, and now she's caught. Mr. Ed, seeing Mary Kate get kidnapped, flies away, and he finds Oscar and Ashley and tells them what happened. They have to save Mary Kate, but they don't know how to get to Aunt Agatha's. That's the problem. Luckily, when they look up, they see a billboard that says, "Welcome to Las Vegas, where the sun always shines and it's never dark." And there's a big sun on the billboard. Ashley remembers that the gravedigger said,
"I live where the sun always shines and it never gets dark."
So this must be where the gravedigger lives, and he can lead them to Aunt Agatha's house. This poor man is genuinely afraid of the dark. He is very paranoid. He's not doing well. I don't think he should be living alone. When they ask him if he will take them to Aunt Agatha's, he's like,
"Not in the dark. No, sir. Not on Halloween. No, sir. Not so close to midnight."
So Ashley cold-heartedly pulls the power to his building, and it's dark, and they're like, "Okay, later." And he's so afraid of the dark that he decides to go with them. He has no other choice. So while the gang is on their way to save Mary Kate, the police officer that said she'd keep an eye out for the girls sees them. She doesn't pull them over. She doesn't ask any questions. She doesn't report it to her coworkers. I don't know what protocol is, but she doesn't do anything but tell their parents that she saw a girl that matches their children's description.
She was in a weird vehicle near the corner of Blackstone and Barnum. Do your girls know anybody who lives in that area? Any friends or relatives?
Aunt Agatha.
Oh, no.
I feel like at this point, an Amber Alert could be issued. It's not. Mary Kate's been kidnapped by a distant relative who seems like she is intending to do harm to her. And Ashley is with 3 grown men that she doesn't know at all. We don't know their past. We don't know what they're capable of. It seems like a terrible scenario. I feel like we should be concerned. When Ashley and crew arrive at Aunt Agatha's, all the doors are locked. So naturally, Oscar has an idea, and because he's a clown, he blows up a bunch of balloons and uses that to help him fly up in the air. From there, he gets in the house, unlocks the doors, and they're in. Mary Kate's on her way to Agatha's with Agatha and the butler, and she's like kind of talking smack to her.
You'll never see your parents again. Or that mangy mutt of yours.
You are so cranky. Get a life.
And I wouldn't do that. I'm like, girl, she's gonna kill you. I would be maybe nice.
I'll boil the 2 of you in oil, or I banish you forever. Faster!
When Ashley and the rest of the gang get into the house, we hear Aunt Sophia yelling, "Help me." Which helps lead them to where she is. She's very helpful. She gets descriptive and even includes the information that she's in the attics. I'm in the attic! So they find her. They find her in the attic. When Ashley arrives in the attic and her and Sophia finally meet, we get some bad news. Unfortunately, because Mary Kate is not there, like Sophia said,
I was lost.
Because the incantation must be spoken by both twins. So it seems that this is a prophecy. I don't know, a lot of things had to line up for this to work out. She had to be saved within 7 years of being trapped in the attic. She could only be freed on All Hallows Eve, and there's a certain incantation that has to be said that doesn't seem like anybody knows, and it has to be spoken by what seems to be 2 twins from her bloodline. So, I mean, things are going better than you would expect. And this is the point in the movie where we get to see why and when Agatha trapped Sophia in the mirror. So what happened was Sophia got sick of being bossed around by her sister Agatha. Just what a lot of girls do when you are making a change in your life, and she cuts her hair.
What have you done with your hair?
She tells Agatha that her and George, this is a twist, George, the one who was Agatha's butler who shook Mary Kate at that one point, He was Sophia's boyfriend, and they were running away to get married. And this really upset Agatha. I think she was jealous. At least that's what Sophia said. Sophia said she was jealous. And she's also toxic and controlling. So what she does is she traps Agatha in the mirror and she turns George into her mindless minion. Agatha finally arrives and adds a little insult to injury by mixing the twins up, which we know they hate.
I have Lynn! I'm Kelly!
Oh, whoever.
So at this point we have a bit of a standoff. We have George, the butler, holding on to Mary Kate. We have Ashley with the moonstone on the top of the stairs, wearing it, not budging, not giving it back to Agatha. So Agatha makes her a deal. She says, we can share the moonstone and we can just put your sister in the mirror with my sister and it'll be really cool, because doesn't it suck being a twin? And I mean, Ashley thinks about it. She's like,
No!
in the end, Ashley decides to put the moonstone on the stairs. And as we know, Agatha is a liar and she's like, screw you, I'm taking the moonstone. And I think it's implied. She's like, I'm going to hurt the both of you in some way. Mr. Ed saves the day and he swoops in, takes the moonstone. And at this point, she offers him some thanks and he can't be bought. So he takes off with the moonstone and she is pissed.
Go get your shotgun, George. We're going crow hunting.
Hot diff, ugly!
And at the same time, the ladies, the twins, they flee to the attic where Aunt Sophia is. In a moment of bravery, Oscar and Mr. Gravedigger, I believe that's the only name they give him, try to block Agatha from going up the stairs. And I mean, I'm not really for violence, but it kind of pisses me off they didn't just push her down the stairs. There's two of them and she's elderly. But Oscar does kick her and she gets pissed and turns them into turtles.
After her! Hurry!
So Mr. Ed flies to the attic. He brings the girls the moonstone. But the problem is it's almost midnight and they do not know the incantation. While they're trying to guess the incantation, Aunt Agatha is just trolling the girls like,
Remember my cat?
Yes.
I've decided to turn each of you into a little mouse and sick my cat on you.
so she's kind of violent. The twins are bummed and they end up having a nice heart-to-heart where they're like, I love you, you'll always be my sister, I like being your twin. And then suddenly Mr. Ed turns back into a human, Mr. Gravedigger and Oscar turn back into humans, lights flash, and Sophia comes out of the mirror. So all is well. However, it's not quite midnight, and Agatha tries to push Sophia back into the mirror, but then they struggle. Sophia is the winner of the struggle. Agatha falls into the mirror. The parents finally make it and reunite with their twins, and then George and Agatha can finally be together. It's also important to note that Norman the dog jumps on Mary Kate and pushes her into the mirror and it shatters into pieces and nobody bats an eye. The obvious question the parents have, what happened? What's going on? What's the deal? And Aunt Sophia's like,
Oh, we've been having a Halloween party.
the twins have never met Sophia. I don't believe that their dad has met Sophia. I mean, I don't have children, but I'm sure I'd be beyond pissed. Okay, so we're getting to the end here where everything's kind of happily ever after. But Aunt Sophia makes her famous cinnamon cookies, and George is all,
It seems such a long time since you made them.
did nobody fill him in? When he was a minion, did he just lose 7 years of his life? did she not tell him what was up afterwards? Like, does he have other friends that he's gonna call and they're gonna be like, it's been 7 years, what the hell? Has he looked in the mirror and thought, I look almost a decade older? In the end, Ashley and Mary Kate's parents get the loan they wanted for their house, and we see them in the attic cleaning up the glass, which seems bad. I mean, who sends their 2 7-year-olds up to an attic to clean up glass? It's a weird move to send your 7-year-olds to clean up the glass themselves, and Agatha is all,
help me!
And they're like,
No chance.
which, I mean, fair, but that's kind of a cold move for a couple of 7-year-olds. I hope they grow up okay. I hope that attitude is just isolated to this incident. I hope they're not traumatized. And I hope they don't continue to be that cold. She deserves it, but just children aren't usually quite so raw like that. But anyways, it works out. They're okay. Family's got the loan. They're back together. The men who seem to not have families of their own now are part of their family. And it seems like so far so good. Hopefully it works out. That's my video. That's all. I hope you enjoyed this. I know it's new. When I put this together, I hope it turns out okay. And I hope you just have a really great day, a great week, and I hope to see you again. Thanks. Bye.
I hate Halloween!